Hi there, readers. I'm so glad you're back. It's great to see you. All right, today is our follow-up from what we started yesterday. Yesterday, or the lesson you did before this, whenever you did it, was a lesson on how to describe character using a bubble map. So we focused on describing one character at a time. Let's read what our target is for today. Here we go. I can compare and contrast how characters are alike and different. So do it with me. Compare, contrast, compare, contrast. Come on, contrast. Come on, contrast. Do it with me. Compare. Similarities, differences, similarities, contrast, compare, differences. Oh, nice. You getting the picture? Okay, let's look at these two materials, for example. Let's compare and contrast these two things before we get started. What is something that is similar or the same about these two things? They both are writing utensils. They're also similar because they both have ink. They're also similar because they have felt tips on the inside that are juicy. They're both markers. They're both school tools or supplies. Now, what are some differences that you see in these two things? This one's orange. This one's black. The outside is orange and white. The outside is black and gray. This is meant for a whiteboard, like this, that can easily be wiped off. This is indelible or permanent. Does not come off things. Big difference, folks. So similarities and differences will help us to understand what we're about to do. If you just say marker, these are both markers. That's a similarity they have. But if you look closely, there's quite a bit of difference that makes them have different purposes. So we're going to keep that idea of similarities and differences, comparing and contrasting as we move along today. So we have already read both of these books, Hawaii for Wadney Wat and Listen Buddy. Now, if for some reason you forget one of these books, you missed one, or you just love them so much you want to reread them, now would be a great time to pause the video, jump over to our Literacy Google Classroom, and you can re-watch or reread both of these books. I linked two videos in there. One is Hawaii for Wadney Wat, and one is Listen Buddy. This would be a great chance to go re-watch those or reread those so that the thinking we do together is clear in your mind. Now, if that's too much, or you're alone and you can't get the help to get there, or you're confused or lost, just stick with us here in the video and you can rewatch them later and then maybe recreate your own comparing map after you rewatch them later. If you're interested in doing that, which is a great idea and would really help to make things clear in your mind, watch closely. So you're going to go to Google Classroom. Remember, you can find this on your BVSD portal. When you go to your BVSD portal and you sign in, you click on the Google Classroom app. Hopefully you're familiar with that by now, but if not, just a reminder. Then you're going to go to Literacy, the one that starts with Alexander. It says Alexander Gurr Hampton. When you click on that Literacy, you're going to go straight to Classwork. When you click on Classwork, there's a new category or heading that says Read Alouds. I have both Hawaii for Wadney Wat and Listen Buddy right there ready to go for you. So if you click on this video right here, you'll just be able to reread both of those books, and that will really help make sure that all of your thinking about the characters and what happens in the text is very clear for the lesson we're doing today. So go ahead and pause the video, do that now, or you can do it later. Whatever works for you and your timeline today. Let's head back over here for the rest of our lesson. Okay, when we introduced what are character traits and how do we describe characters, we thought of this acronym FAST. If you think about the way a character feels, the actions they make, the things they say, and the thoughts that come out of their head, it really gives us some good insight to character traits you could use to describe that character. We have this list that I've kind of tried to keep handy when I've done my thinking. And if you ever need to rewind, pause, come back to this list, it's a great tool to use for some juicy character traits because we really want to stretch our thinking and build our vocabulary as readers. And so we want to get past just funny, cute, nice, kind, sad, mad. This list is full of juicy character traits that you can use. And remember, they're even categorized. If you think a character's nice and that's all you can think of, come up here where it says nice and look at all of those synonyms or words that mean similar to nice that you could possibly use that might be a little more specific for the character you have in mind. Okay. So I love this picture because it helps to give us more words that remind us of comparing and contrasting and looking at similarities and differences. So if somebody says, what's one thing this marker has in common? If you come look over here at this little cheat sheet, in common means things that are similar. And if somebody says, well, when we read Bill and Pete, they were alike because they were both kind. However, Bill was a little bit more friendly, and here's why. So I heard that word however. However gives us a clue that that's a difference. That's a contrast. So they're both kind. However, here's a difference. So being aware of these similarity and difference words can also be a helpful tool, and using this list can help you when you write about your reading. If you take time to write about the similarities and differences you notice in characters, coming back to this list is a great tool to help, again, beef up your vocabulary, use new and interesting words, and challenge yourself. That's how you're going to grow your own vocabulary that you use as a reader and a writer. So keep this tool in mind too. Okay, we are going to compare and contrast the two main characters from Haway Fawani Wat and Listen to Buddy. Now remember we talked about in our last lesson, how do you know which character is the main character? Well, in both of these books, Wadney and Buddy, their pictures are on the cover and their names are on the cover. The author introduces both characters right away, which we know is very common for a fiction text. So that tells us that these are our main characters we're going to focus on. All right, so now let's practice together. I have read Listen Buddy and Haway Fawani Wat, and I know you have too. And if you haven't, where can you find them? That's right, our literacy Google Classroom. You can find them. So if you're confused, remember you can rewatch them there, and that would be a great tool for you. All right, readers. So if I think about what I know about Wadney and Buddy, ways that I would describe them, I want to make sure that I am including both things that are similar and things that are different. So if you look at my, double bubble I started back here. Remember yesterday we did a single bubble map? With a double bubble, you'll notice on your screen or on my easel, you can look either here on your screen or here on the easel. In this middle, we're always going to put bubbles and describing words and character traits that are, that's right, the same, similarities between characters. And then on this side, we're going to put differences that are only specific to Wadney. And on this side, we are only going to put character traits that are specific to Buddy. So follow along as we make our double bubble together. I would describe Wadney as shy. He doesn't want to talk when he notices that he sounds different. So remember, my text evidence, how I know what I know, goes outside the bubble. My describing words, my character traits, and my adjectives go in the bubble. I also think Wadney is very friendly. I also think Wadney is very brave. I think that because he does talk even when he doesn't want to and he's nervous. So now I want you to go over here and think about Buddy from Listen Buddy. What are some ways you would describe Buddy that are only unique to Buddy? Because I don't think Buddy was shy. I don't think Buddy had anybody to show us he was friendly to. I'm sure he was, but we couldn't see it. And I don't think Buddy was very brave. He actually got super scared. So what are describing words that you would use to describe only Buddy? Only Buddy. Yeah, I think he was confused. I noticed in the picture clues that he kept looking at his parents like, why? What did I do wrong? I followed your directions. So he looked confused. That's my text evidence. I also would describe Buddy as distracted. I never saw Wadney being distracted. Did you? No. I definitely think Buddy was distracted. And I noticed he was distracted when his parents were talking to him in the picture clues. He wasn't even looking at them. He was doing other things. So when parents talked, he was busy. Okay, readers, I also noticed that Buddy got really scared when he encountered the varmint. It was a varmint, right? The bad guy? Yeah. So he was scared when he encountered. Remember, my text clues go on the outside. This supports the character trait I'm using to describe the character. And the last one I noticed about Buddy is he was really outgoing. His parents asked him to do something, and he was like, sure, yeah, okay. And he was just always trucking along, had something to do. He was never sitting around. Doesn't mean he always did what was asked, but he was always on the move. Now you'll notice I have 3 character traits over here for Wadney. I have 4 over here for Buddy. It's okay that I don't have the same amount for both. They don't have to be equal or even. So now what goes here in the middle? What kind of bubbles go in the middle? That's right, our bubbles of our similarities. So I want you to think, what is something that you noticed about both Wadney and Buddy? I think one of our first most obvious ones is that both characters are animals. In both of these texts, both characters are animals. So I put that similarity bubble in the middle, and then I connect it to both of their names. I also noticed at times they both got shy. Even though Buddy was usually outgoing, there were times that both characters were shy. I also noticed that they both got embarrassed. When Wadney was afraid to talk and Buddy realized he made mistakes over and over, they both started to feel embarrassed. Now remember that similarity goes in the middle. That character trait that they both have goes in the middle, and then it connects to both of their names. And in the end of both texts, they both were really, really, really proud. So I want to make sure to have that happy ending in there for both of them. I did notice that they both struggled. So we could have that in there. Their struggles were different, but what they had in common is that they both, in fact, struggled. So readers, it's kind of getting a little messy now, isn't it? That's okay. This shows all of the thinking that is up here as a reader. So if I were to take this with me to go have a book club with a friend, to go chat with a teacher, hang out with my parents and chat about what I'm reading, I have some great things that I could use to talk about the similarities and differences that I noticed. So what could that sound like for you to talk about the similarities and differences that you noticed? Let's see what that could sound like. So again, if we use this great example of words that remind you of similarities and words you could use to talk about differences, this gives you lots of options. Now remember, we practice how we talk about things because it helps us to speak more clearly, to feel confident in what we're sharing. It helps the people we're talking to clearly understand what we're saying. And this actually helps us to be better writers. If you use some of these new words you're not used to, like however, even though, in comparison, you're more likely to use them as writers. So this is just great practice in general. Now these sentence stems and starters are things that I could use in my reading journal when I want to write about my reading. There are things I could use when I just want to talk about what I'm reading. So it might sound something like this. If you notice, the black tells us characters or the text they're from. Blue shows us similarities. That matches over here. Blue is similarities. Red shows us differences. And the yellow is our evidence. We always have our evidence that supports our thinking, right, readers? So it might sound something like this. In this very first sentence starter, if you want to talk to someone in your house what you're talking about, call a friend, write in your reading journal about what you're reading, it might look or sound like this. Buddy, I'm looking at this very first one, and Wadney are similar because they're both animals. I know that because one is a rabbit and one's a rat. Okay? Second one might sound something like this. Wadney is different from Buddy because Wadney was very shy in the text. We never saw Buddy being shy until the very end. So Wadney was always shy. Buddy was a little shy. That's a comparison that they have. They're both a little shy, but the contrast is that Wadney was much more shy. Okay, let's try this one. Wadney showed bravery when he decided to talk, while Buddy showed being scared when he encountered the varmint. So those are definite contrasts. I know this because I saw Wadney talking even when he was not feeling comfortable, and I read Buddy was scared, and I could tell by the picture clues how scared he was when he encountered that bad guy. So remember, there's lots of ways you can say it or write it. These are just some ideas and examples. So I want you to give it a try and play around with it. Talk to someone in your house if you're able to. Use your reader's journal if that works for you. If you're running out of time and it's too much, that's okay. You have seen some examples and you know what it looks and sounds like. Okay, how did we do on our target today? I can compare and contrast how characters are alike and different. I see quite a few differences and quite a few similarities or things that are alike, just like our two markers. Similarities, differences. Alike, different. Compare, contrast. Nicely done, nicely done. Did you know it takes 70 times using a new word like contrast? 70 times using it, saying it, reading it, writing it for it to stick in your brain. There's a fun fact for you. All right, readers, here's the challenge. If you are done, out of time, your brain is full, you are maxed out, you need a break, good. We love you. Bye. See you next time. If you need a challenge, you're up for a challenge, you want to challenge, you want to do a challenge later, hang here with us for just a minute longer. All right, here's your challenge. Ready, readers? Dun, dun, dun. I want you to make your own double bubble, just like you watched me do. And I want you to do it for any two characters that you want. Now, here's what I want you to consider. This is really powerful when you're really careful of which characters you're comparing and contrasting. So here's some examples for you on the screen. For example, if you compare and contrast Bill and Pete, remember we did just Bill and then we did just Pete in our last lesson? That'd be pretty cool to compare and contrast them to see what you come up with. They are two characters from one book. You could do the same thing with tops and bottoms that we've previously read as well. You could compare and contrast the bear and the hare. Or you can compare and contrast two characters from two separate books. However, here's how I like to do that. Do you see down here, Verity and Stella Luna are both books written by Janelle Cannon. So maybe you have a different series around your house. Maybe with your family you're reading Harry Potter. Maybe you have some Dork Diaries. Maybe you have Erie Elementary, some Squish, whatever you might have around your house. Comparing and contrasting two different characters from the same author is really powerful because we know that one author created those two separate characters very carefully and designed them very carefully. So that's a fun one to do. Or over here, you could compare and contrast maybe two of the problem characters or the bad guys or the villains from two fairy tales that you love. So over here we have the troll from, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. The Three Billy Goats Gruff. Oh my goodness. And the wolf from the Three Little Pigs. So that would be really fun to reread those books and to compare and contrast the two bad guys or the problem characters in those texts. So those are just some ideas for your challenges, reader. If you're up for it, I would sure love to see a picture on Seesaw or sent to me or anywhere that's comfortable for you. And if you're not up for it, it's okay. Now you know how to do it, and I know you will next time. Great seeing ya, hanging out with you. Love you. Miss you so much. Look forward to seeing you soon, reader. Way to go, super reader.